quick summary of the components for this build, which is Phantom Blades, Flight of Gaavanir, shield-based build. And the shield is pretty important, but I'll get to that. Okay, so for the skills, these are all ruined exactly the same way, as you can see, and essentially it's just so that they deal a trail of damage over time, and to maximize, these skill weapon increases. Dusk Shroud, this is quite the most important one really. It gives you just a 20% damage on top. It's like a multiplier in one of the levels, and then you can have a look at these nodes, but they're all useful. Warpath, mobility, and this allows us to travel long distances with it. Flight of Gaavanir, this is the configuration. The main thing is it allows us to send Flight of Gaavanir out. It pauses, does several AoE hits at that point, and then returns and does an explosion on yourself. So if you're close enough to the enemy, for example like this, it's essentially a lot of damage all in one spot, and that's how you handle bosses. So bosses, you're up close and personal. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the stats. So kind of what you want to do here is attack critical chance needs to be at least 50%. Okay, I'll explain why in a bit, but as much as 55 even. It just kind of depends on your block chance. So, okay, let's just look at that now. So my block chance, if you look over here, it's essentially 100, but 99.5. And there is a mod on here which says, which one is it? Increases the critical chance score of Flight of Gaavanir based on your block chance. If you look here, I have 100% critical chance with this spell. With this skill, it only deals critical hits, which is like triple damage. And now, if I just demonstrate what this actually does, if I remove this rune, watch what happens to crit chance. See, it's lost 50% from my shield block. So this is perfect for shield builds. Right, back to those stats. Now, currently I actually have quite a lot of dodge, although it's not necessary, and I'm actually trying to convert this build into block chance and resistances, which does affect the Gate of Fates as well. But this is your starting point. Having a look, you want to get 100% block chance and 50% efficiency. It's pretty difficult. Like my shield actually has a hunt efficiency mod. Usually you wouldn't have that, so you'd be on 7 efficiency, for example, maybe 8. Goes as high as 9, but that's, so let's say getting to 50 is still pretty challenging. Now you'll see on my gear I've actually got block chance, block efficiency. That is just to make sure that, and that attack one should be a block chance, but it's pretty tricky to roll the correct mods. I just probably need to spend 500,000 gold trying to get them right, to get those sockets. Okay, and I have actually put quite a lot of points into health, if I remember correctly, but it's so easy to get defenses on this build that I don't really need this much. So these kind of things are adjustable. But what you should do first is tune your build with your gear and your Gate of Fates to how you like to play it, and then you can actually respec your attributes and figure out how much of each you want, because you'll know how much. Like, there's no point really going more than you need to get 100% on Flight of Gaavanir. So I'm wasting a lot of points here. I'm getting 100% crit chance even if this is at 50. So that's a lot of points I could put into these things, which can be helpful, for applying ailments and increasing my attack speed. Okay, onto the onto the Gate of Fates. Now, there are quite a few ways you can do this. So this is one configuration, but starting with this layout of the rings, the way I've oriented them, and with this base, there's a lot of easy changes you can make. Okay, so let's just start with what I have picked. Undertaker. This node is very powerful. Okay, 30% damage on top, so it just takes 30% of your damage, adds it on top, but only for 5 seconds. But if you have multiple globes picked up at the same time, they do stack, so you can get a huge power boost with this, but you have to be flying through the map, really moving fast. So if you're not going fast, or if you don't enjoy that play style, just drop this. You don't need this stuff here. And yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points that you can put elsewhere. Okay. Now, okay, this you have to take. I mean, it's a huge increase in damage. It actually doesn't add 30% to critical damage. It multiplies it by 30%. So if you had 200, it becomes 270. Okay, down here, EOS tree. These are one of the things that you can use or not use. Okay, so the point to note is that these points here from here is 11 points. If you don't want to play EOS, you can take those 11 points and put them into Cabalist. Okay, so you take this Mortal Offering and you take this Grievous Afflictions. You just come through here, up, in there, 11 points exactly. So these are like a straight switch. You would take this if you can reliably have a minimum of 3 sets of 10 stacks, if you're familiar with the Mortal Offering. If you can't reliably get 10, 10, 10, it's not worth taking this. But for example, if you do have a trial belt, you know, by all means use the trial belt, and you very easily you'll have 4 stacks actually with this build. Okay. So anyway, I'm trying out EOS because I actually want to build this without the trial belt. I don't like relying on that. I want to build it without. I am playing James Tall Tale. It's very, very hard to beat, although I'm trying to craft a rare that's better at the moment. So anyway, going back down to EOS, what this does is adds 35% of your damage, see 25 here, 10 here, on top as sacred damage. But in order to do this, your force shield, so if you look over here, your force shield has to be lower than half. So right now it's at 13, it needs to be less than 6.5. So if you are dodging a lot, it's not going to work very effectively. So that's why I'm actually in the process of converting my build to resistances from dodge, even though my dodge is actually still very, very high, 41. But ultimately I want to drop that right down to like 10 or lower and get this much higher, my resistances. And you just do that by adjusting these items here. Okay. Okay, let's move along. This over here, so just show you something. These are the block nodes. Over here you get 5% block chance, over here you get 5. This gives you resistances when you block, so you only need this, so you only take, I mean, that one's very powerful, 2 efficiency. You only take this if you are going resistances. If you want to play a dodge build, okay, so we're a shield build, but you need to layer it with something else because you're only getting 50% efficiency on your block. So you have to have either dodge or resistances. If you're playing dodge, then you don't play this, okay? But what you do is you take this because that works with dodge. And by dodge, I mean you've got like 60% dodge. Okay. This is a good node, but I don't really have a spare point for it now. Moving on to here, okay, it's 300 extra willpower. The reason that is good is because you want to stay above 50% or above 750 to get double damage on everything. So the great thing is obviously Phantom Blades does not use any rage, so it doesn't drop you below that 750. But Flight of Gaavanir is quite expensive, as you can see. So if I didn't have, you know, all this extra rage, then my second one would drop below 750 and it wouldn't get double damage. So you really want to get extra willpower. So that there's another point to take. These are block nodes, you can see there, block chance, block efficiency, and that's just a great node as well. So these are very strong. You can come in here to get Dire Juncture. This is a defensive node, So the great thing about this configuration, there's a lot of very easy changes you can make. You can just come in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and you have a very, very powerful dire junction node, which halves the damage coming in. Okay, this is compulsory, it just works extreme. You permanently get this damage boost of 50% because of the crit. You just take that. This here is for your, to get an extra projectile, you have to take that. Over here, this is extra attack speed. Now, to be honest, playing with resistances, probably not great because you end up losing about 10%. So when I do successfully convert this to a resistance build, I'm going to drop this for something else. Okay, this is compulsory obviously, and over there you get 10 block chance on your single one-hander. Over here, this 1% damage per 100 rage points counts quite a lot. Just to show you how powerful this, okay, it's only 1%, but I just want to show you how powerful it is. So let's compare. Okay, so if you look at this helmet here, it's got no material damage. Okay, so if I look at my skill damage over here, 18,386. If I remove it, it should stay the same. Okay, it's changed by 100. What is that from? Okay, it's going. Maybe it's building in the critical chance. I wouldn't have thought so though. Interesting. Okay. Well, okay, I'll demonstrate with this one. This is a material. Okay, so this is material damage, and if we look here, we've got 18,981. So it improved the occult damage slightly. Okay, so we're getting 18,386. We put that one on 18, so it's gone up 600. Okay, with 17% material damage. Now let's change that to this node, 3% damage per 100 rage points. Notice I only got elemental damage on here. Okay, watch. 18,981. Look at that. Goes up over 20,000. So that's what, 1,500 damage we've got? Yeah, almost 1,500. Well, more than that, because we don't actually have the elemental, we don't have that material damage. So if we actually compare it to this one, okay, from 18,386, because like for like, all we're adding is that 3%. Okay, from 18,386 goes up 2,000, 10%. That's 10% multiplier, that node. It's huge. So if that's 10%, that'll tell you that this here is 3% multiplier. Very powerful, worth 1 point. So back onto this, the ideal helm will have 4% damage per 100 rage points, it'll have 20% material damage, and it'll have 25% skill cooldown. So if I could merge these three helms together, I would have the helm that can replace this. But right now, I can't replace that because 21,291, oh, what does that do? No, it's like a whole 1,000 behind, it's crazy. But I would definitely change it if I can get these three features on the same rare helm, because then I can get my cooldown reduction on this, so I can play it more often. At the moment, it can only be done every 3.6 seconds, but you can get it right down to 2.5 seconds with the right gear. So I'll just show you here. If I put that 22%, so right now, look at that, 3.6. If I drop that on, 3.1, half a second faster for you to be able to cast Phantom Blades. I mean, it's very powerful. And if you are fortunate enough to have these, or even two of them, you watch again from 3.1, now we're down to 2.6. So if you have another one, you get very close to 2 seconds. So that's the ideal. It gives me a project anyway to try and get that nice item. Okay, as for the rest of the gear, you want material damage on everything. Now, on your shoulders and gloves, you want rage, excuse me, and willpower cost reduction. You can see I've got it on all of these. Why? Well, you've seen the importance of having maximum rage. For every 100 rage points, we're getting, we're getting damage through this node. And once you get if you happen to have this helmet, well, in fact, okay, I've actually got that modifier on my chest, okay, 3% damage per 100 rage points. So it's very important to keep your rage full. And also, remember, if you drop below 750 rage, then you lose half your damage. So it's very important to have rage and willpower cost reduction. Believe me, just playing this and playing Dusk Shroud, I had the right key, and playing Warpath, it doesn't take much to get you below 750. Okay, boom, we're below. And that happens in seconds. Okay. Then the cooldown reduction you get on helm, chest, and legs. I've got it on legs, I've got it on chest. I do not have it on helm. Well, I do, but this is an occult helm, which I'm not using. Okay, so that takes care of your shoulders, your gloves, and these 3 pieces. Okay, what else is useful? Crit chance is good. Obviously, remember, we want 50 to 55, depending on your block. Okay, so if your block chance is 90%, then Flight of Gaavanir is going to gain 45%, which means you need 55. If your block chance is 100%, then you only need 50. Now, is 55, you might say, well, what about my Phantom Blades? Sure, it'd be better to have 55 than 50 for them, but to be honest, trash dies anyway, which is what you generally using Phantom Blades on, although you do use it on bosses too. But let's just say you're not maximizing that last 5%, because it doesn't give you anything extra on Flight of Gaavanir. It only gives you extra on Phantom Blades, if that makes sense. So it's almost as if you're only getting 2.5% for that 5%. Right. So yes, crit chance is great, but there's only so much you need. Health, again, it's a balance of how much you need, but I'll get back to that. So I'm converting this into resistances, but you can play dodge. You kind of want to decide, what does your gear look like? If you've got a lot of resistance gear, then you go the resistance version. If you've got a lot of dodge gear, now I have got good dodge gear, but I've actually been substituting it out. You'll see that's got dodge, that's got dodge. I've just swapped these out because I want resistance. That's got dodge. I've swapped that one out. You can see it's all got dodge. So I mean, I had 55% or so dodge, but now I'm trying to swap that to resistance slowly. So this is a bit of a work in progress what I'm doing with my build. And yeah, just so remember, if you're going dodge, you can take this, which is a massive defensive boost. And if you're going resistances, you take this. Okay, dodge. This one's also kind of helpful because it makes sure that peak hit you take is not so big. Okay, on the accessories, so the rings, belt, and amulet. I mean, mine, I'll tell you right now, are not great. They're very, very average items. I've been trying to craft some better ones. You want fire, frost, and lightning flat damage. You can see here I've got fire, frost. And you want material damage percentage. And then, the other stuff, critical damage would be brilliant. All resistances is good for my version of the build now because I'm going resistance. Life would be good because it means you can save, the life somewhere else. And you could, so if we look at our damage breakdown, so you could go well, look, it's such an even break with my particular build because of my weapon, okay? My weapon's split between physical, rend, and toxic. But depending on your damage, if you've got like 50% of one damage type, then a good modifier on your rings and your belt and amulet could actually be the specific damage type. So for example, physical damage, or rend damage, or toxic damage, but only if I'd say your damage is 50% of one type. For me, it's not worth it. Okay, so if you look here, there I've got the 3 physical attacks, fire, frost, lightning, and critical damage. Got 4 useful mods on that one. This one's got 1, 2, 3. You know, resistance is kind of helpful. The stun duration, yeah, and that's also kind of helpful. 3.5 useful stats. Sorry, 4. Well, 3 and 2 halves. 1 dead stat on the spell casting. Amulet, we've got physical and rend. The one I'm missing is toxic. Instead of that, I ended up getting force shield regeneration, which is a dead stat. Attack speed's decent. Occult ailment is useless. And then on my belt, I'm not playing the trial belt, but obviously the trial belt works very well. This is a crap belt. You actually want to probably have a critical damage belt, and you want physical, toxic, and rend again. You want material damage, and you want critical damage, chance, you know, the usual good stuff. Okay, so I think that covers the gear. On the boots, you want movement speed, and the other useful stat you can get on boots is transfer speed. So I don't actually have any transfer speed, although I find it's not an issue. I don't think transfer is actually that important to this build. The way you can see is if you have a big black spot over here. But as you can see, I've actually converted all of. Usually I'd have transfer on these, but I've put physical damage. Although, like I just said, physical damage, it ain't that great, you know. It's only 1/3 of my damage. Probably a quarter once I'm in combat. So, actually, that's kind of a bad gem. That is a bad gem. That should be changed to something else. Yeah. That should be changed to something else. And so, you know, the transfer time, resource generation, not going to work. You know, we can get critical chance score. So that'll be pretty good. Critical chance score on them, because then you don't need to put all these points here, and you can get wisdom or agility. Now, so this is the interesting thing. If you can convert a whole lot of your ferocity into wisdom, and you get this up to like 15-20%, then it's going to make stacks stick, and you can go IO. In other words, it'll be much easier for you to apply ailment stacks, and then it's definitely worth going here. Right now, it's quite difficult for me to apply these unless I'm moving quickly and I'm using trial belt. Okay, so I know that was kind of all over the place, showing you different options, but that is the build.